caused it, you know, what caused the gaming industry to fall the way that it did. And I don't want to get too much into what's the word I'm looking for. I don't want to get too much into, I wouldn't necessarily say politics, but like social issues. But one of the main reasons why people just don't have the energy to, well, don't play games like they used to, and I don't feel as inclined to stick with games as they used to, is because, if you look at it, a lot of people who built these franchises, I would say mostly millennials, like, the amount of time that we have a day to really put into games is a lot more minuscule than they used to be. Again, we have families, we have jobs that require us to work 40 hours a week. Then at some of our jobs, they require us to work even longer because of the fact that either, people are being understaffed or, small things like that. Like and then on top of that, some people have to take care of their family members because they're now older. So again, the amount of energy you have to really sit down and put hours into a game, people don't have that time anymore, just from that perspective, if you just really think about it. So I know a lot of us millennials have really pushed forward a lot of gaming franchises, but ever since we've had to grow up, and we have also less money because of inflation and the minimum wage not increasing, and people and companies raising the amount of money that it takes to buy certain things. I mean, we already know that inflation is really bad right now. There's even less money to be thrown around as well, and people are taking up more hours at work to compensate for the lack of money that they're receiving. So that's even something else people have to do as well. And again, a good chunk of it is also mood. A lot of people just aren't really in the mood to play games like that anymore. Again, it's a little bit harder when you're coming home to a bunch of exhaustion, family business, drama. Some people even have relationship problems because of the fact that they're so stressed at work, and small things like that can really make a person upset. And again, people do play games to de-stress, but you can't get one of those games that allows you to really just sit down and enjoy the world, because you sit down to enjoy the world, and before you know it, it's already past your bedtime, and you have to kind of make a choice. Do I keep playing this game that I love, or do I stop myself from playing this game altogether, and sadly turn off my system and go lay down. And so when you come back the next day after having to pull yourself away from a game that you really did enjoy, or you were trying to sink your teeth into, again, you kind of just would rather not play it, because I don't really have the time to really sink my teeth into this game like I really want to. So I'm going to do it on an off day. And so what that causes you to do is to inadvertently turn around and play a game that's a lot more quicker to be accessed. And that's where games like Overwatch and Smite and League of Legends and games like those come in, where they're basically quick 30 to 40 minute sessions, of instant gratification with quick kills and skins and whatnot, where they give you those little tiny jolts of dopamine. And so people don't really have the time to really venture out and actually play long-winded games like they used to, And again, I want to say that it's not just the fact that games are terrible today. It's also the fact that we don't really have time to really play those games and realize what makes them so good or what makes them so bad, so we can give the proper feedback to the developers that make those games. You know what I mean? And so I feel like we're in an awkward position right now just with gaming, where a lot of us who pushed this gaming industry forward during the pioneer stages back in 2008, you know what I mean, back when things were really good for gaming, that's the best year for gaming in my opinion. As a lot of us are not a lot more older now, and the ones that were already old enough, we were pretty much okay. Adults back in 2008 wasn't getting their shit pushed in as bad as they are now in terms of hours and time and things like that. And so again, it's just it gets to a point now where a lot of us are kind of I would even use the term zombified when it comes to gaming, where instead of us actually giving a game a try that we were interested in, we'd rather look at a reviewer give their opinion on it. And the bad part about doing that is, yes, these are trusted sources and everything, but at the same time, they might not be the right person to go to for a proper review. But it's a lot faster than you actually spending your hard-earned money, which you don't have because of inflation and businesses charging way more for items and stuff, and you getting paid less because the fact that the minimum wage hasn't increased but the cost of living has. You're not going to be wanting to spend just money willy-nilly on a game that may or may not be good, when at one point $60 wasn't that big of a jump to get rid of. you know. So now we're relying on people who do have the time to play games, but even still, their taste in games might not be the same as ours. So we're basically not giving games the try that they deserve because some guy said that it was bad or wasn't that good when they don't have the same exact playstyle that you have. You know, that's how it was with me with the Division 2. Is I've seen a lot of reviews and they're saying it's not much better than Division 1, and I played the Division 1 and I hated it. But again, after, you know, getting this game for fucking $5 when it was on sale and actually giving it a try, it became instantly one of my favorite games of all time. Of all time. Not just of this year. I mean, of all time. You know? But notice the drastic measures that had to be taken in my life in order for me to even give this game a fucking try. And that's the sad part, I think, about gaming. Is gaming isn't just, you know, the games in general. It's also people's accessibility to it as well. And games are nowhere near as accessible as they used to be because of this economy and because of the political sphere and the social sphere that's happening. You know, I wish there was more money in our pockets so we can actually enjoy more games, you know, and actually give our proper feedback as fans of franchises to these developers rather than developers getting their reviews through funnels of other game reviewers who either do or don't like the company in general or don't understand the game that they're playing in general. You know, and so the developers get the wrong idea of what gamers want because they think one person with 1 million followers speaks for the entire gaming sphere. And so again, I feel like the gaming could be a whole lot better if people who originally built these franchises were still involved. But a lot of us aren't involved anymore, you know. Hell, not even I'm involved. I'm trying my best to play as many games as possible. I have my YouTube channel going. I'm trying. But again, it's nowhere near, again, money-wise and everything, it's nowhere near as easy as it was back in the day. You know, nowhere near. Just access gaming, you know. And again, so since there's no one really there to tell the developers, an entire fan base to tell the developers how they should and shouldn't, you know, move forward, is they're left to the, you know, the 1 million follower YouTuber. You know, there are some really good YouTubers out there who do really good game reviews. I'm not trying to say that that's not the case, but it's just the fact that a good chunk of those people who do have high, you know, amounts of followers, they can't speak for an entire fan base. You know, they really can't. So I just feel like when it comes to the gaming stratosphere and, you know, how we perceive gaming, like I said, I believe the reason why gaming is dying right now, or why games are nowhere near as good as they used to be, is specifically because of the fact that the people who were involved with gaming back in the day, me, you, and all the other millennials, usually, mostly, we've grown up and we're in a position where we can't, you know, enjoy gaming like we once could, you know. Again, there's way too many issues going on today that prevents us from really enjoying the games for hour-long sessions because we're either too tired from work, because we either overwork ourselves, or we don't have enough money because, again, minimum wage is still so fucking low. The cost of living has gone up, and there's so many different reasons, man. And again, I wish times were back like they were back in the, you know, early and mid 2000s, where, you know, back when I was a kid and back when the cost of living wasn't so high, that we could have more interesting conversations about this as a community of people and fans of a certain gaming franchise, rather than us falling out of it and relying on game reviewers on YouTube to basically push the entire narrative of how an entire fan base feels, even though they don't speak for the entire fan base, but they speak for themselves. Again, how I perceive the Division 2 and how someone else perceives the Division 2 is different. Again, I play a lot of PvE Division, but someone else could play nothing but the PvP version, you know, both of which are very important. But if a game reviewer that likes the PvP aspects of the game does a review, they're going to mostly spend time on the PvP aspect. And so when there's a sequel to that game, you know what I mean? Most of the developers are going to look at that YouTuber who does do the PvP aspect, and the Division 3 might not have as much great PvE aspects because the developers looked at the, you know, 1 million followed YouTuber and went with what he said, because they think that since he has that many followers, he speaks for the entire fan base, when me personally, I would want them to add more PvE aspects, you know? But again, it's just, we don't have that kind of time to really put time into the game, to really enjoy it, to really give our proper feedback, because we just don't have time and the energy for it anymore. So for me, I just feel like when it comes to, you know, gaming, you know, and as a whole, I feel like the reason why it's dying is because the people who built these franchises aren't a part of it anymore. You know, and franchises don't really have much guidance through these YouTubers because they're only in a funnel. They don't speak for an entire fan base. They speak for themselves, you know. And so, again, since you're taking specific criticisms from very specific people with high followings, the developers themselves, and not from the fan base because they're not really as involved because they're too tired from real life to play your game and give you proper feedback, it's like the game is going to change so drastically because the developers are being miscommunicated what the fan base actually wants, you know. So the safer thing to do basically is to just listen to the higher end YouTubers and to basically, you know, go from there. And since most games today, you know, everyone wants to be the next billion-dollar IP. I'm sure everyone remembers, because it's still a thing, when Battle Royales first came out 4 years ago. And it's just like, goddamn, you know, every developer kind of dropped. Like, I know Battlefield did it too. Battlefield, you know, kind of went in a different direction, and they started doing Battle Royales as well. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, yeah, it's not really something you really specialized in. You specialize in big team battles, you know? But now you're doing this Battle Royale thing because, you know, PUBG made, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars, and Fortnite made hundreds of millions of dollars. And instead of you communicating with your fan base and keeping your franchise going in a direction that everyone was happy with, you decided to instead push in a direction that might make you more money. So that's also a problem. As you can already tell, I'm very passionate about gaming. I'm not sure that much is obvious. I'm hoping that once the social aspects of our life changes to whereas people don't have to worry about working long hours and the minimum wage can go up so people can have more money, you know, to buy and afford games. You know, even kids with their parents, you know, kids can't even just, you know, ask their parents for a game anymore because $60 is a lot of money today than it was back in the day. You see a game that you're interested in and you just can't just put money into it. Your parents can't just give you money for that shit because, again, inflation, prices, things going up, and, like, again, you can't enjoy that game that might actually be the next biggest thing in your life. And it's sad, you know? Again, I'm basically saying it's not just, help me. Basically, I'm not just saying the reason why gaming is terrible today is because the developers don't care anymore. It's just the fact that, you know, a lot of us can't enjoy games like we used to. Time, money, and energy. We don't have that anymore.